Thanks. We are at Spingboro Intermediate School today, and I am sitting here with 4 of the Spingboro School counselors. We've got Sarah, Dana, Randy, and Jim, and they're going to basically tell us a little bit about what they do at each of the different schools and how they help our students at all different levels. Ladies, gentlemen, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having us. Thank you.
I'd like to start with Sarah, if you wouldn't mind, since we're in Sarah's office today. Sarah, tell us a little bit about what you do here at Spingboro Intermediate and kind of, how the counselor's role has maybe changed a little bit and what you do for most students. Obviously you handle some, student crisis situations, but what's the most normal type of interaction you have with a student?
Well, probably the biggest thing that I'm dealing with is helping these kids transition from elementary to more of a middle school setting.
Sure.
So they're coming out of an elementary school, and I used to teach kindergarten and first grade, so I know that it is very different than what they experience here. So just simple things like having 4 teachers versus 2,
Sure.
Not having a desk, now they have a locker, they get to class by themselves, they're not walking in a line anymore. So there's a lot more responsibility and expectation placed on them, and that can create a lot of anxiety for the kids coming in. So we do an early schedule pickup so that they can come in and mock their schedule, practice their locker combination, and then that first couple weeks I'm in the cafeteria, very visible, helping in the mornings when they're getting here and managing their lockers and that kind of a thing.
Sure, sure. And this, at Spingboro Intermediate, this is the first time the entire grade would be together. Yes. Is that correct? Since they're split in elementary schools at 5 Points and Dennis.
Right. And that, too, can be a little bit of a struggle for some of the kids. We have a really nice structure here where they're in teams. So we have 4 teams, and there's about 125 kids on a team. So that allows students to have 4 main core teachers. Their language arts, science, social studies, and math.
Okay.
And then their locker is right there in that wing of the building. So they don't have to walk very far.
That's nice.
So that's another thing we have in place for them to feel more comfortable. And then as they're put together with students from another elementary, they may not have some of their friends on their team, so they're not really seeing those kids a whole lot throughout the day. So yeah, that can be a little bit of a hurdle for some of our kids.
Understandable. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Okay, so let's talk to Dana. Dana, tell me a little bit about your role at the elementary school.
So in grades 2 through 5, we're really fortunate that we're able to get into the classroom a lot. So we go in once or twice a month to our grade levels in each class, and we do what we call social emotional lessons. So those vary really just depending on the needs of the students in our building. For example, sometimes they just involve character traits like respect. We always do a couple lessons regarding bullying, what it is and what it isn't. And then some other things like self-control, really what the students need the most. So giving them some strategies to help them control their words and their actions. And then actually in 2019, we're going to start introducing mindfulness to the kids as a way to kind of combat some of the social emotional things that we're seeing a lot in our offices. And then in addition to that, so that's kind of how we reach everyone, and that's how everyone also gets to know us. So they get to know who we are and what our role is and what they would come to us for. So in addition to that, we also meet with the kids individually, like you had mentioned, if they're going through a crisis situation, or we help them do a lot of problem solving, a lot of conflict resolution and things about friendships.
Okay.
And then if kids need even some additional support, sometimes we get them together in groups. If they're all kind of dealing with the same situation, whether it be changing families, anxiety, some self-regulation issues, we meet with them in that context as well. We'll get a group of kids together and work on some strategies and problem-solving skills as well.
That's probably very helpful to students that are going through, whether it's a family change or a personal situation, just to know that there are other students in the building that can relate.
Yes, it's really great because exactly, they realize they're not alone. They have another person that knows sort of what they're going through, and it gives them a chance to connect as well, because sometimes we have a lot of times we do friendship groups or social skills groups. So not only are they learning skills on how to meet new people, but they're meeting them right there once a week for about a half hour, talking through some things and learning stuff together.
That's phenomenal. That is phenomenal. So Randy, tell me a little bit about your role
Yeah, I would say our biggest role at the junior high is really just supporting our kids and supporting our families, and really trying to remove any barrier to their academic or their social emotional success and growth. Junior high can be a very stressful time where there are a lot of things changing. So we work with our students both in classroom lessons, individually, and groups as needed. So one of the biggest things, as we get into junior high, managing their time and organization skills are huge, because oftentimes they're really getting involved in a lot of things outside of school, and they also have, an increasing commitment with their schoolwork and really thinking about the future. So that's something we work a lot with. We also work on really helping to create a very positive school environment, and a very accepting school culture. So we work with our positive behavior intervention program. And then we also do a lot of conflict resolution, because it's an age where there's a lot of peer struggles and issues, and really trying to help them to figure out that conflict is going to happen when you have relationships with other people, and there are really healthy ways to solve it, that you don't just need to say, okay, we're done because we had a disagreement. So we work a lot with that, and we collaborate a lot with our families, our students, and our teachers to really work towards how do we all work together to help our students grow and learn.
That's phenomenal. So at the junior high, what do you see are some of the biggest issues with the children? Because as you said, that is a really kind of transitional period. It's kind of right in between, really being a child and truly being a young adult moving into high school. And I mean, let's keep it real. Junior high was a pretty awkward phase for most of us.
Yeah, and I think the peer struggles and the relational struggles is definitely one of the biggest things that we work on. Certainly some of the overwhelmed feelings of feeling like you're starting to have more on your plate and taking on more responsibility. And then I think just really working through, how do you solve problems? I think recognizing that as a person and as a junior high student, that they have control over their situation, and that if they don't like something that's happening, that they have the power to change that. So we really do a lot of that, empowering our students and helping them to realize that they can take control over the choices that they make in their future.
That's awesome. I love everything about that. So Jim, tell us a little bit about what is going on with the counselors at the high school. I know most of us have experience with the counselors at the high school, just because that's kind of, in my mind, the most traditional role for a counselor. You think of, the high school counselor that helps you kind of get ready for college and that type of role. But I understand it's probably a little different now.
Well, the challenges that we have at the high school are everything that the ladies have put on the table. But in addition to that, what we're facing a lot of times is we're talking about young adults.
Right.
And so these kids are going to start asking a lot of questions. They're going to start playing roles that they've never had before. The adjustment from junior high with problem-solving skills and relationships that they deal with there. Now they're starting to get a job. Their parents have expectations for their academics that are way, and the kids' minds are often unachievable, but the adults all know that they can get this stuff done.
Of course.
And so you can really set the calendar by the events that the kids are going through in our building. Now, it's a pretty significant difference between a 14 and 15-year-old freshman and a 17, 18-year-old senior.
Absolutely.
And what they need and what they are going through. Sure. The relationships they have with the adults in their lives, whether it's their boss or their parents or grandparents or however that goes, their individual relationships if they're having those, and then also their commitments to things that are outside of school. So our role is really difficult to sort of put your thumb on and say this is what we do all the time, but we do deal with every single one of those things. Special education falls in our plates a lot of times. There are some discipline and attendance issues that we become part of. We provide resources for students that may need additional therapy needs outside of us, because that is, though we are called counselors, the ladies will agree with this, we are not therapists. So we have some skills to deal with some immediate crises and situations, but we don't have the license, we don't have the training to be long-time therapists and deal with those sort of emotional needs that they may need. But that's really the place that we fit in. On top of that, you have the older students that are wanting to go to college. Sure. You have the mid-range students that are trying to figure out what they want to do as they grow up. So that's really that's kind of a summary of how the high school fits in. That's one of the reasons we have so many of us up there.
And what do you feel are the biggest issues that are facing our high school students today? You know, from freshmen through seniors.
Well, relationship problems are number one. Most of that's driven from what we see, it's driven by social media.
I was just going to say, and I bet social media.
Well, and that's probably a
that.
totally different topic that could be added to your show over multiple shoots. But the social media interactions that they have, some are very appropriate. Others, they are modeling what they see that we all know are inappropriate.
Sure.
And truth of the matter is, if you're in contact with people 24/7, then that's going to create problems in itself.
Oh, for sure.
So we always try to get kids to understand where their influences are coming from,
Right.
and how they're making their decisions. And so when we start to deal with bad things that have happened to young people, it can almost always be traced back to that, or under their overreaction to people that have responded that they don't even know.
Sure.
So that's one of the biggest impacts they face. Academic stress is also huge. Our high school kids are taking 8 tests that are mandated by Ohio before they can graduate. 7 of them are specific academic tests that are built into the core course requirements.
Okay.
And then they have to take the ACT.
Right.
Whether they intend to go to college or not, they're expected to take the ACT. So
Wow, I didn't know that.
yeah,
Okay.
performance levels for those, everyone has their own definition of what's
Sure.
acceptable and unacceptable.
Right.
But when the kids start talking about the kids that are doing really, really well on those tests,
That's heartbreaking.
absolutely.
Ugh.
Why are you doing so much
Yeah.
less work than I am, and you're getting better grades than me?
Yikes.
And that always leads
That's hard.
to stress, especially this time of year, because we're at the end getting to the
Sure.
final exams for the semester, and most of our students, probably about 60% of the senior classes applied to college, and they're getting responses back.
Oh, yeah.
Early admission,
And so
that's
all of that
happening
stuff,
right now.
yeah, it's a big deal.
That is a big deal. Wow. So what can we do as community members, or as a parent that might be watching, or a grandparent, or even a neighbor of somebody, of a student in Springboro Schools through, elementary through high school? What can we do as community members to try to, support these children and maybe, help on a different level, of course?
I think open lines of communication are probably number one.
Okay.
I think when anything is taboo or off limits and you're not talking about it, that's where the issues are going to stem from. So I think parents or grandparents, whoever the caregivers are, if they're having open communication with their student, their son or daughter, and creating an environment where that can happen,
Sure.
I think then kids know they're safe and they can go there to talk rather than to social media or to someone on the bus and maybe not get the best information.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Dana, do you want to add to that?
I agree with that, and I think just like what Jim said too, it's that expectation piece, having realistic expectations for your children, because what we see, he sees up to high school, we see at all grade levels. It starts in we see students having issues with that kind of time management and anxiety, and trying to figure out, how do I get my grades up and keep up with everything, even starting in the elementary school. So having those realistic expectations and not hesitating to reach out to school, to reach out to your child's counselor, to reach out to your child's teacher, to keep that line of communication open in all areas of your child's life, particularly understanding we're all sort of team members to help your child be successful at school and at home.
Okay, perfect. Randy, do you want to add to that?
Sure. I would say one thing is modeling and teaching things that maybe for us as adults seem like, gosh, that's so easy. Why can't you do that? Or why are you struggling with that? I think sometimes for us it's really hard to remember back when we were a kid or when we were a junior high student, and the first time you're having to do anything, the first time you're having to manage a really busy schedule for you, or the first time you have to deal with a conflict with a friend or a teacher, it was really hard for us the first time we did it too.
Sure.
So I think remembering that, hey, it's okay that this is hard for you, and we're here to support you, and really working with your kids on teaching them and showing them and modeling for them, how do you do this, so that once they've seen that you're not upset with that, or that we're all on the same team, it's going to be okay to reach out for help. And once they've done it with an adult a couple times, hey, now I can do this by myself, and I
Right.
feel confident to be able to do that.
No, that's perfect. I think that's great advice. Jim, what do you think?
One of the problems that our kids face is, what are the expectations that the adults have of me?
Sure.
And how do I compare to my peers? And so I think personally, from my perspective, and this doesn't always hold true with everybody that's in this profession, but I think the reasonable expectation is part of it, but also understanding that as you try something, you may fall short of whatever mark you think you're going to get.
Sure.
And that's okay.
And that's part of being a human.
Exactly.
You know.
One of the, I think, growing up and becoming a young adult is dealing with when you fall short and understanding that I get another shot at this.
Sure.
And it's not a be all end all because I didn't get the mark that I didn't reach the mark I thought I wanted to get to. And our expectations are outrageous, and they should be. We should have those expectations high, and if we reach those expectations, then the next step is to raise them again.
Sure.
And we're going to do that. But it's also really safe. Disagree or agree with me? I think it's really safe to let kids understand it's okay to fall short.
Absolutely.
And I think allowing that. So even something as simple as here, where parents are maybe consistently bringing in a lunch where a student forgets it, or their homework. You know, maybe give them a free pass once or twice, like Jim said. Okay, you forgot. This is a new experience. But after that, now the ball's in their court.
Correct.
Let's teach them some responsibility. So you're going to have to suffer the logical consequence of today you have to buy. You can't, have a packed lunch, or you have to take that lower homework grade, because next time maybe you'll remember it. So I think, that goes along with what Jim's saying, allowing our kids to maybe fall short a little bit when it's time, and then helping them see how to improve next time.
Yeah, I really agree with that. I think allowing your child to experience the logical consequences of not turning in your homework assignment means you get a lower grade, or not studying for a test means you get a lower grade, or sometimes we do things, we forget things, and realizing it's okay and you're going to get through this, as opposed to kind of always trying to save them. And we all want to do that for our children.
Of
We
course,
don't want
of
our
course.
children to feel uncomfortable.
Sure.
But being uncomfortable is a part of life, and it's that quote of, if you never step outside of your comfort zone, you're never going to grow. So just kind of allowing those things to happen and supporting your child, which is what we all try to do, because as you can see, we're all in the area of support. Just the way we deliver that is different based on the needs of the age of the children.
It's not easy to be a kid.
Oh, no, definitely
I
not.
used to laugh at all of the old, but the guys that I was looking up to when I was younger, making comments about, well, wait till you get older, those kind of things. Well, I'm kind of at that point now, but I don't see that it was this difficult when I was younger.
No, I would
And
agree.
they have way too many things going on.
I'm so grateful
So
that I
not
was
good.
exactly that. When I was a teenager, I'm so grateful we didn't have social media. We didn't have camera phones. It's a really dangerous, scary place, because you can make a mistake as a young adult that will affect you throughout the rest of your life, and that's a terrifying thing.
But Sarah, you were telling me something really interesting that you've done this year for your students here at Spingboro Intermediate.
Yeah, this year I've had the opportunity to go in each quarter to a class and help them get set up on the Ohio Means Jobs website. And what they do is they create an account, and then that helps them prepare for their 7th grade class, Career and Consumer Concepts. And so they create this account, and then they take this career cluster inventory, and it comes back with some jobs that their interests or their likes are in line with. And it's really cool to walk around the room and hear the conversation going on. And some of them, it's right on with what they were thinking they wanted to do, and then others, kind of pondering, like, well, I never really thought about that job. But then they can look at, the education needed for that job, the salaries, and then just be prepared then for their 7th grade class.
Yeah, absolutely. So for a couple years now, we have had the Career and Consumer Concepts course that at some point during 7th or 8th grade, all of our students will take for a quarter. So it's a fantastic opportunity to really explore different careers, different projects that might relate to skills and abilities and those kind of strengths that might lend themselves to different careers.
Okay.
And at the junior high level, that's really what we're focused on, is that career exploration piece. We don't expect anybody to know this is what I want to do, and even if they think they do, they might change their mind.
Of course.
But for us, it's really important, because if there's not an opportunity to explore what's out there, then really we just know what we see. So we know
Totally.
we go to the doctor, we know, whereas with an opportunity to explore all of the different options, you have a better idea of what possibilities are out there and what you can look further into. So another thing that we do is we do some visits to different businesses and locations. So we do 2 examples of that. We go on a construction day and a manufacturing day where all of our students in the building get to visit at some point or another a manufacturing location. So part of that really is to just get kids out there and see
Very cool.
something they're not used to seeing, and see there might be other opportunities they had no idea existed.
And it gives them some kind of real life experience.
Absolutely.
Very cool. Very cool. Now, when I think of school counselors, I always think of, college prep, or at least, maybe not a traditional university, but, some sort of post-secondary education. Is that, something that obviously you're involved with, helping them, find the college path? I know you talked about, some of the students maybe wouldn't be going to what we consider a traditional university, but with the career and college planning aspect, how does that all fit into the high school?
It's sort of multi-layered. We start with the freshman class. The freshman class gets seen by Ms. Orsborn, our freshman counselor.
Okay.
And she gets them into, we have a service called Naviance.
Okay.
And it is a subscription service that we buy into. And the students access that online, and it provides them with some career survey type materials
Okay.
that we use with that age group. Hopefully to get them the same thing that Randy and the other girls are doing
Sure.
at a younger age, but to get them a little more focused on what their ideas are.
Okay.
And then as we transition to 10th grade, then it becomes an option for them to start looking into where do they want to go to school for 11th and 12th grade.
Okay.
Because those options have just exploded in the last 5 years in terms of, can I go to college while I'm still in high school?
Right.
Do I stay in full-time high school for 4 years? Or do I pursue a career tech program
Sure.
at the Career Center? And so all of those options are now available for them, but you can be so overwhelmed if you don't know what's there.
Of course.
Just staying around the high school is comfortable.
Sure.
And a lot easier. And it's always
Absolutely.
going to be that way. We know that. But it becomes very, very challenging for a small number of adults to influence that many kids to start making those kind of decisions. So how those students make those decisions is really what we try to drive home.
Okay.
Who are you talking to?
Sure.
What do you see versus what do you know is available? And most kids I would argue, they don't recognize that if you go to college, there's not a whole lot of majors that tell you what you're going to be.
Right. No, that's very
The truth of the
true.
matter is I go and get my degree and I may end up in a career area that's not necessarily what my degree was.
It happens
so
to the
that's-
best of us.
exactly. It's hard to predict that moving forward. And they are a little fickle. They are going to change
Oh,
their name.
absolutely.
We know that.
Yeah.
Or change their minds. We know that. But that's one of the roles that we play. And so the college planning piece
Okay.
becomes a big part of that.
Sure.
We get tons of phone calls and appointments and have conversations. How do I pick a school? Where should I go to school? Dana wants to go to school as far away from home as she possibly can get, whereas Randy wants to go to school right up the street and live at home and not spend that extra money.
Absolutely.
And those differences, I think, have really become options as well. The locality of where I can get post-secondary training
Okay.
versus traditional four-year school.
Sure.
Go live on campus, become that college student, dive into college life. Those are all different. And the financial piece of it is always going to be the
Of
driver
course.
and a decision maker for some of that.
Sure.
And then some kids just aren't really in,
Right.
they want out of school as fast as they get out. So that's the other piece too.
Sure.
We do know this for sure. You've got to get some post-secondary training of some kind. And the construction groups in the Miami Valley, the manufacturing groups in the Miami Valley, the builders associations, the bankers in town, the attorneys in town, even the medical providers in town are looking to have kids come see them in action and be part of all that stuff. So it's there.
And what a great opportunity.
Yeah, and we try to give them access to that as often as we can.
Wonderful, wonderful. Now, just to be fair to your colleagues, of course, we have the 4 of you here today, but there are many other counselors that work with the schools. So let's talk about it, if we could, just, let's go to each of you, and you can talk about, your colleagues and actually how many people are on the counselor staff.
Well, like right across the street at Clear Creek, there is one counselor for the kindergartners and first graders.
Okay.
Yes, so
Perfect.
she's over there.
Yes, and then I have another counselor in my building, Mrs. Wenzel, and we split our caseloads by grade level. So I work with students in grades 4 and 5, and Mrs. Wenzel has students in grades 2 and 3, and the same over at 5 Points. 5 Points also has 2 counselors split by grade levels up there as well.
Wonderful, wonderful.
And at the junior high, we have grades 7 and 8, and we have 2 counselors, and we actually split them alphabetically. So
Okay.
Mary McConnell's A through K, and I'm L through Z, and we do work very closely together. So we work with all students as well. But
The high school has a number of counselors. Kate Orsborn is specifically assigned to freshmen, so
Okay.
she handles the incoming student challenges.
That's wonderful, because freshmen, that they may need a little extra, hand holding and assistance. Just that is a big transition.
I'm pretty sure she'd tell you they need a lot of help. But then we have 4 of us that are full-time in the building. Actually, 3 of us that are full-time. Myself, Ryan Wilhite, and Emily Nelson
Okay.
are full-time. Jen Bohink is there 3 days a week, and she handles a lot of the coordinating of College Credit Plus
Okay.
and testing in our building. And then Tammy Zimmer actually has a caseload of students as well, but she also splits time as a gifted
Right, of
intervention
course.
specialist. So that is a dramatically different role from being a guidance counselor. So she splits time between us and central office and
Sure.
doing professional development that's required. And
Wow.
we have a lot of hats, but we handle everything from all grade levels, and that's an alphabetical split.
Very nice. Well, thank you. Since we're, just rolling into 2019, if you would just, end our segment, tell me something that you're excited about that's going to happen in 2019, or just something, that Springboro should be proud of in 2019.
Well, I'm excited to be able to get back to what I call my Fox Den lessons with each team. We went to a different schedule this year, and so up until now, there hasn't been that time built in the schedule for me to see each team once a month.
Okay.
So starting in January, we're going to have that time every Friday. So I'll be able to see each team once a month every Friday and do some character ed lessons with them and just talk through whatever the current hot button issues are and just be real with them that way.
That's fantastic.
And I'm looking forward to start with our social emotional lessons, because we are starting a new curriculum once we get back after the new year. Again, introducing mindfulness to the students in
I
a
love
variety
that.
of ways. So we're looking at that and evaluating that and see how that helps our students.
Phenomenal.
I think in 2019, Springboro should be really proud of their students. I think it's an awesome opportunity to work with our kids and see positive things and kindness happening every day. One of the things that we do in our building is all students and all staff have the opportunity to write Pride Paws. So it's basically a thank you letter recognizing someone else, because we really want to teach them that they have the power to make their school a positive place. So I think for me, I get really excited when the kids recognize another student. There was one earlier in the year that was thanking someone for offering them to let them sit at their lunch table. So just those kind of things that are true life skills of how to treat other people, and I think we have great kids and great families. So
That's so
what I'm
important.
excited about.
Thank you for sharing that.
I agree with Randy. We have great kids. There's no question about that. And we have great families in this community. And our teaching staff across all of our buildings, everybody is teachers, or not teacher-centered. That would be the exact opposite. They are very student-centered, and the success of our kids is the number one driver and decision maker.
Yeah.
The high school is going to progress. The second semester brings the stress of, okay, what classes am I going to do for 2019 and 20? The staff has put together the program of studies, and that'll be adopted here as we turn the year over. College application decisions are going to start coming in for the kids. testing season will start in late February and go till the end of April.
Ay, ay, ay.
End of May if you're taking AP exams and those kind of things. So once we get to Valentine's Day, it really takes off and goes fast for our kids, and they'll find the end of the school year comes around very quickly.
Wow.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we're almost back to spring already. No. Goodness gracious. Well, thank you so much for the four of you, joining us today. And I know our community has really enjoyed this conversation. I've learned a ton, and I'm sure they have too. We'd love to check back in with you throughout the year and kind of, stay on top of what the, counselors at Spingboro Schools are doing.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Welcome.